Welcome to Biggest Geekus. We're your hosts. I'm Randy.
And I'm Joe.
This is episode 30 of our podcast, and the date is Wednesday, March 31st, 2021, last day in March. How you doing, Giuseppe?
Alrighty, our podcast episodes are rapidly approaching our age.
Ooh, sweet. That's true. Before long, they'll be old like us.
Yes, very close.
Oh man. So anyway, you ready to hop right into it?
Let's hop.
Feeling some positive energies as we go into the positive material plane.
I was trying to think of. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. What's up?
I didn't mean to step all over you.
That's okay. You just broke my hip. I'm old, but my hips break easy.
Okay. I was thinking about that. I was looking at the outline. I was looking at that segment title.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that if we did any musical interludes between our segments, which we haven't done, and
we should.
It's a lot of work. So,
but I don't mind you doing that.
Yeah, I know you don't mind me doing that. But it would be cool to have kind of an old 60s psychedelic music. I don't know what instrument it was. What you would imagine hearing in a 60s like music video with someone at the hookah pipe.
Oh,
that kind of weird guitar-y sound. Maybe it's a mandolin. I don't know.
Is it a sitar? What's that?
I don't know.
Not music.
It has strings.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, I think we got one call in this week, right? From High Level Play.
We do.
Sweet.
And I will get that going. Reshare.
Is that our favorite Nerds Variety podcast guy, Jason?
Yes, he is strong with the variety.
All right, cool. I can't hear it. I think there was sound coming, but I wasn't hearing anything.
Well, let's see here. Oh, I unshared the sound.
Oh, okay. He's sharing now. Sweet.
Let me.
Hey guys, Jason here. For a random character generator, or a bunch of them actually, Google smoldering, like, smoking, smoldering wizard BX character generator, just BX. And it'll take, the first link will be something like old school character generators or something. And go there, and there's a whole list of different ones, including Sword and Wizardry. Again, it's Smoldering Wizard BX character generator, and that'll take you all the quote-unquote OSR character generators you're going to want. As far as Barbarians of Lemuria, yes, it's its own system. It's its own unique thing. There's a generic system based on it now called Everywin, but it developed as its own unique thing. So, yep, I think that's all the questions you had that I remember. So,
did you get that?
I did. Smoldering Wizards BX character generator. I'll be checking that out.
That's pretty cool. That is that was kind of an issue. That could be an issue if you're running con games with BX or some sort of old school. If there's generators out there, that's great.
Yeah, it can be, because it can be kind of tedious. I mean, it wasn't bad back in the day when I ran some games at Gen Con. I ran some games anywhere from with 9th to 12th level characters. I could make the characters pretty fast, but it was still time commitment, and being able to generate them fast is always much better, especially with Cabin Con approaching. It's good to have those quick character generation. I've been watching videos on the Aliens RPG because I'm excited about running that. So I'm pretty pumped. I've been doing a lot of work on my Cabin Con games. But yeah, thanks, Jason. That was cool. We appreciate the little website there.
Yeah, that's great.
Always count on him to drop a little knowledge on us.
Yeah, very useful resource. We got another one from him, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, you did ask a couple of questions, but you were mainly throwing poop at the wall, so I'm not going to touch that. I will say high-level characters, hey, they're fine. I don't mind playing high level characters. I'm happy to play low or high level. I'm a social gamer, so it doesn't really matter to me. I just enjoy playing. One thing I'd like to see more is high level DCC games, Dungeon Crawl Classics. You see funnels all the time. People love to play funnels, but I like playing mid to high level characters there too. Although your characters get really crazy when you get high level in that game. Things can go pretty nuts. But yeah, I don't see an issue with it as far as levels versus non-level or class systems versus more granular systems. I think it's just a preference. I don't think there's a good and a bad or a better and a worse. I just think they're different. So anyhow, great show. Talk to you again soon.
Yeah, I think that it's a play style preference. If you like real crunchy games, especially like or real complex games, I don't know if it's complex. Something like Rollmaster, I don't know if you call it complex exactly.
Yeah,
it just
I'm not
seems
sure.
that way, if that's the right term.
In play, I always considered games like Rollmaster, especially accessing all those charts. The first word that comes out of your mouth is complex, but that's not right. I've always thought it was convoluted, the way it plays. But building characters, in Rollmaster is kind of a real crunchy thing too. And third edition actually gave us, you got best of both worlds. If you like to build, third edition's your build game. And if you like class and level, you got that too.
Right.
But a lot of games like Champions and stuff like that and Hero System, you get so many points like GURPS and you build these very granular characters. But yeah, I appreciate that. Now, Jason commented on DCC. I hear a lot. I bought that bundle of Humble Bundle or Bundle of Holding recently, and I told you I got like 20 or 30 modules. And I did notice there was only a couple that were even 5th or 6th level. The rest were like 1st to 3rd. And I wonder if that's because in DCC, especially Wizards, you're very likely to die. When you cast your spells and you got a random table to have some kind of special effect, I mean, if you roll poopy, you can like totally annihilate yourself and half the party. So I think DCC, they just don't, I don't know if they even expect you to make it to high levels, which is kind of a shame, really. That could be a problem.
Do they have high level? I thought I only went to 10th.
It does, but that's their cap, kind of like 13th Age is 10th. So I think at 10th level in DCC, you're pretty boss. I mean,
oh, okay.
I mean
it's not like a BX thing where it's like it only explores so powerful of characters.
And don't forget a first level spell like Magic Missile can do like, if I'm remembering correctly, I read it a couple of years ago. I think you can do like D10s of damage at first level if you roll well enough on a critical strike. So, I mean, you can like shoot, and it could be like, 500 miles away or whatever, like a literal missile. So, I mean, to be fair, you can do pretty crazy stuff right out the gate, but you can also like do a mishap and then a tentacle grows out your back.
Right.
So,
so we do have some house, and I don't know, Randy may not be, we talked about it offline, a little housekeeping to do. The previous episode, somehow the audio got kind of borked. The intro music got overlaid improperly over our introduction. And so I had to fix that, and it took some effort.
Yeah. But you did.
But I got it.
Credit you did.
And here is one final voice message from the result.
Okay.
Hey guys, great episode. Wait, I've already listened and commented on this episode. You tricked me. No.
I have to apologize to Mr. Jason.
I'm not apologizing. I meant to trick him.
I did put up an updated, the name updated, the word updated in the title.
You did.
So he probably, it would have been easy to miss, I'm sure.
And
so
you only
sorry
managed
about that, Jason. I would say that you wasted an extra 2 hours of your life by listening to the episode again, if that's what you did.
Didn't. But you really didn't.
You didn't, because it was us.
Right, you got to hear us. Now, we're sorry about that. It got kind of screwy, but yeah, it's good that Jason's keeping on top of things. So, yeah, one of our friends, well, Patrick, pointed it out pretty quickly when it popped. But Joe is a working man. He's only got so many hours in the day. Took him a little while. I don't blame him. I wasn't about to do it because I'm like, I don't do that kind of menial work.
What?
Did I say that out loud?
I'm just a menial worker to you. I'm the help.
Yeah, that's all right. It's all right, man. We still live.
I am, and those guys.
You are. Let's not forget that.
Those guys.
So you were chatting with me earlier today, in sticking into the positive material plane, you had a pretty cool idea for a high level campaign, Joe. What were you noodling about earlier?
Well, I'm okay. So I was listening to Shadow of the GM,
Hmm.
and which may be one that we need to put in our list of things to listen to.
I do. I listened to Barry. Yeah.
Barry, yes.
Hmm.
And it wasn't.
Oh, and
really,
by the way, he is a seriously fast talking Scott.
yes, he talks
But I mean,
fast.
but you can understand him. But he is really moving out.
Not
pretty
all of
impressive.
his words. Some of them you lose, especially when he transitions.
He's quick, dude. I like it. I like it though.
You often lose that last word before he goes
Yeah.
to a new segment or something.
To be fair, yeah.
He was. See, what was the subject? He was talking about power level of player characters in second edition Pathfinder.
Okay.
At first level, and how they were significantly more powerful. And he wasn't saying bad or good. He was just saying that it was the case.
More powerful than first edition.
Well, yeah, in other
Pathfinder?
editions. So in earlier editions of the game, if you got jumped by a horde of goblins, or no, kobolds, was the example, you would be worried.
Yes.
Maybe even in third edition, I can't remember.
I don't recall, probably.
But in Pathfinder's second edition, he had a character at first level with 21 hit points.
Oh, okay.
And it was just a cleric, so fighters probably have a bit more.
Right, maybe 30.
And so kobolds, if they're not scaled the same or scaled to deal with that, apparently they're not.
Right.
They're not much of a threat.
Okay.
So, but he was talking about power level,
right?
First level,
sure.
And he didn't say anything about it being bad or good, or that powerful characters are bad or good. It just got me thinking. He just got me thinking about powerful characters and how in the OSR, leans low level and leans low powered. Because of low level, not necessarily low powered, low level characters, not a double whammy. It's just because it's leans low level,
they tend to be lower powered,
and less complicated, fewer moving parts, stuff like that.
More like you're a real person to a hero rather than a hero to a superhero. Yeah.
Right. So it just got me thinking about powerful characters and how I like to play them. And I know I've heard people say things like, if you want to start high level, the kind of things you might say or hear are you don't deserve that.
I've heard that phrase.
You don't deserve that. You have to play it out. And I've been playing for 40 years.
You deserve it.
I've played it out.
You deserve it. You deserve it.
I've played it out.
Right.
Now that's D&D like games.
Yes.
But I'm well experienced in playing the low level end of the game in a fantasy setting. We all are. I mean, many of us are. I'm not exclusive to me. So that's why I think a lot of us are. We itch to gain a few levels so we can get out of that first level. We don't really want to be a punk for very long.
I'll tell you this. I know it's not your favorite, but 5e, I prefer to start at 3. I have no desire to play first and second level ever again.
I've only played a few times, and it was significantly over first.
Even as a DM, I don't want my characters to be first level. They're very easy to kill. So
that's right here, because the first 2 levels are supposed to be like neophyte, a little below what first level used to mean, even.
Right, they're pretty weak. Yeah. So anyway, what was but you had an idea. You said a little text.
So my thinking just led me into what would it be like to start off powerful, but not in one of the bad things about playing a ready-made high-level character is that you don't know the character,
Right.
you don't know the setting,
Hmm.
yet you have this character with all this stuff, and
You
it's
don't know
supposed
the
to have this
mechanics. You
big,
don't know the mechanics
don't
as
know,
well either.
not necessarily,
Right.
and it's supposed to have all this history that you don't know. You can't really role play because you don't know it.
Hmm.
You're just thrown into a high level adventure and you go, and it's a little
Right.
awkward.
Right.
So I was thinking of kind of a take on that where you could probably play better, which
Okay.
is you start off with a powerful character, whatever that might mean. I didn't have
Hmm.
anything particular in mind, but
Fairly high level.
powerful,
Hmm.
high level, powerful character. But for some reason, your memory is lacking.
Hmm.
You have no gear to speak of, no money to speak of. Uh, you're like brand new in the world, kind of, but high level. So, an
Are you
example,
talking even a wizard would be like no spell book and no memory of spells?
potentially,
Interesting. Okay.
it would be a challenge to start.
Yep.
Um, the spellcasters, especially the ones that need a spell book to get their spells ready, it'll be a pain in the butt for them.
Hmm.
They would have to go, depending on what version of D&D you were working on, you would have to go cantrips or nothing.
Yep.
For a
Yep.
while.
Yep.
So, an example of a kind of a character would be like my character Butch.
Yep.
You got made in a vat.
Right.
You know, that you got a number somewhere on your body scrawled,
You're
serial number.
you're a living creation. Yep.
Right. And you pop out with powers or
Right.
just skills, abilities, whatever.
Right.
Another one could be you get somehow resurrected, but very much delayed. So you were killed. You have maybe a little nub of a finger left in some room somewhere that gets somehow preserved,
Right.
and somehow you're resurrected like a century beyond where you were at.
Right.
And maybe something weird happened with that resurrection and your memory's wiped.
Right.
Some bit of your memory.
Right.
Some kind of deal like that. There's probably a lot more ways you can.
That's a
figure
real
that out.
yeah. And you remember you played in that one Cabin Con game where I had you guys resurrected, and you were resurrected by this particular fanatical group to deal with this one bad guy, and then they were planning to put you back in the ground, which didn't work out so good for them.
Right.
But yeah, I like that. That's pretty cool. That'd be a cool way to start a high level campaign. I mean, you could be 9th, 10th, 12th, whatever level you wanted. Now you could say this, and I probably would. I would say, because I wouldn't want to nerf the wizards too bad. I'd be like, look, you don't have any spells, but you know the names of spells and things that you should be able to do. So you just need to find a spell book, and you can start piecing things together. Because if you're a 12th level wizard, it's not like I forgot that I could cast. I can't believe I can cast Magic Missile. I mean, you could say that, but that'd be pretty hard pressed to believe that. Or at least if you do, it'd be too gimpy, especially if you're going to allow sorcerers and bards to have or classes that can cast spontaneously. They're going to have a huge advantage.
Right.
So I think it'd probably be
I would say that kind of specific exception. So what? You have to live with it.
No, you're right.
If you're in a party, if you're by yourself with no memory, a wizard could be really screwed.
Absolutely, if you wanted to go that route.
But if you're the lone, but if you have a party, then you have to pull together, and probably your first, apart from subsistence, your first duty is to make sure everybody gets what they need to be able to do what they can do.
Yeah, because you're talking starting with absolutely nothing, but naked in a swamp, as we used to say.
Right. So.
Right. And I'm not saying the wizard gets to go write spells down. I'm just saying he would know that he's still the appropriate level to cast spells. So he wouldn't be like, am I able to cast Fireball? Yes, I'm able to cast Fireball. I just don't remember how the spell went. I've got to see it first.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that I think it would be an interesting first session.
Yep.
Also, I wasn't necessarily just thinking it was a campaign idea.
Oh.
It could be and it may not work as this is the game. The game is you start out powerful with no memory. I was trying to think of some way to do kind of inverse to low level with nothing to high level with a lot.
Oh,
Some
you're
kind
talking.
of inverse, some kind of mixing up of all that stuff and throwing in the high level thing because, well, I like high level. And
But are you saying then? Are you trying to think of as more of the game that, like, if you actually made a game where that's how you played,
yeah,
that was how you built characters,
right,
and they started out high level, and they had to somehow figure out how to get back to where they were.
right.
Yeah, you could.
I think I don't think it's original because there's plenty of games where you start out powerful,
Mm-hmm.
but if you were going to do it with, say, an existing rule set, I think your best bet would be to have archetypes to choose from that you would modify slightly instead of spending hours. Depending on, I mean, if you were doing this with third edition, it could take you a couple hours perhaps.
Yeah.
To make it, depending on what level your character was. I would go with an archetype setup where you would have whatever classes and races you want to use in this scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And you would say, this is the archetype for fighter or magic user or whatever, and go from there. But it was just some random thought I had today.
That's kind of cool, actually. I think that's a neat idea. The idea it's always appealed to me somehow, stripping away the stuff from high level characters and seeing how they could do with sticks. I mean, especially if you come back, imagine what if you start like I know there was a an old third edition third party game. I don't know if it was called Dungeon World. I know there's an RPG called Dungeon World, but it was something. I want to say it was created by James. His name's escaping. Anyway, you basically begin the campaign. You wake up on a slab, and you're in this world. You've died, and then you have to go, and it takes you to a different dimension where you adventure there after death. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if you did that and you started on a slab somewhere in a dungeon, and said go, and you step out, and then you run into an ogre. I mean, granted, you got 4 or 5 beefy characters, but you got nothing. So you got enough hit points to survive a couple of whacks, but in D&D parlance, your armor class is 10 or 9 or whatever, and you're going to get whacked. Going to be strategic and he's like, I got to get me a big stick fast.
Right. Or you might just say, let's try to avoid as much of combat as we can until we find civilization.
Correct. Yeah, I think it'd be cool. That could be a really cool, and you could paint that as epic, sweeping epic game where they have to do something super heroic, or you could paint it like grimdark, where survival is the key for the first few sessions, just trying to make it back to some civilization, and then it can still stay grimdark, where people are like, "Who are you? And why should I?" You ain't got any money, and you guys got to work as like, you got to do like crappy jobs to get a little money to buy a weapon to, get a spell book or something. So yeah, hold on a second. My dog's being silly.
Alrighty. I also mentioned to you the tavern.
Yes.
Remember the inn. Remember
the inn? Yeah, the inn idea was pretty cool.
And I've expanded upon it a little bit.
Cool.
But essentially, it's a location that could either just be a jumping off point, like a quest point where you get several quests from.
Yep.
It could end up being a base of operations.
I think that's where it sounds really good. I think it's a good idea.
What I think an ideal place for it would be to be at a crossroads, kind of frontierish.
Right. An old keep.
Right. And the setup is essentially a family lives there. And there's a few animals and some farmsteads nearby. And they're not all that far from villages in a city, perhaps. So they take occasional trips out there to resupply when they need to. But they do a lot of hunting, their own hunting and fishing and gathering food that they make there for travelers.
Mhm.
So it's for people going out to the frontier, perhaps, or just to different places around your game world.
Last
Or
last bit of civilization, folks, before you head out to the wild. Here, this is all you
right,
got.
could serve
Yeah,
either way or both, depending on
yeah,
how it's situated.
yeah.
And I also, oh well, the setup is it's an inn
Hmm.
that has a couple of tables set out to eat downstairs, but you can also eat in the room.
Hmm.
But it has a stable, it has a blacksmith, though it's primarily for non-weapon, but it could be for weapons. It's going to be up to whoever runs it,
Right.
really, if they want to change that. But
Hmm.
there's like a dozen or so people there that
Right.
work and subsist off the land and off of trade and people coming through and staying at the inn occasionally.
I would
But
think so they don't necessarily need a lot of trade, but maybe it's a part of their income.
yeah, it's uh, travel is unpredictable,
Gotcha.
so uh, they would probably need to do other things to survive.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
I think it's a cool place. That'd be a good
yeah.
way to. That'd be a good place to start a campaign with. And like you said, it would be a good base of operations, or just a well-known inn. Especially if it's you had mentioned to me that it was kind of built inside of an old, old keep that
So
had got.
right,
That'd be
repurposed.
that'd be neat. Yeah.
Right. And the way I thought envisioned it, it would be somehow um, they've made a deal with someone somewhere to help them restructure, maybe use the stone, repurpose the stone somehow. I don't know how possible that is with, say, castles or keeps back in the day, if you could
Hmm.
reuse the stones at all. But I also thought it would be cool if I was thinking of Earth history
Hmm.
and how I've read it recently where Rome had its aqueducts and plumbing and running water to some degree. But after the fall of Rome, all of that technology went out of use for one reason or another and picked back up a few hundred years later. So what would it be like in a world where that didn't happen? So someone developed plumbing, running water, and that civilization didn't just die and the technology lost. It was actually not lost and
Right.
kept going.
Interesting.
And what it would really be really cool is if gnomes did it.
Gnomes.
Gnomes.
Okay.
So what I'm thinking of with this tavern, this waypoint, there is a freshwater spring somewhere
Hmm.
close enough so that these gnomes, smart, tinkering, ingenious folks that they are,
Hmm.
uh, have developed a way to pump the water into a tower that's on the property, and through gravity, it provides just enough pressure to give them running water and crude toilets.
That'd be kind of cool, actually.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and there's gnomes running around.
And who wouldn't like that?
Not hundreds of them, but there's a few
No,
gnomes.
they're the little tinkerer guys that do the working and know all the little ins and outs of the plumbing.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
Cool.
a tavern,
Yep.
an inn with
Uh-huh.
running water.
Yeah. That's cool. And that's something I don't think I think about a lot as I do campaigns, is to try to pick iconic spots, ones that adventurers can keep coming back to. I'm more inclined to think of the big grand adventure, where I think it makes the world feel more real. If you have a place that would be an iconic spot where players would be like, oh, remember the Crossroads Inn? That's an awesome place. I love those little gnomes. Let's go back there.
Right.
And so that'd be cool. Yeah.
So I'm just imagining some encounters like you're walking up to the building and you see this. The image you see is of a short, pointy-hatted, 2 foot tall figure
Hmm.
with in this kind of thinking pose.
Right. Thinking man.
And they're so still, you think that may be a statue of some kind,
A little gnome
a
statue.
little yard gnome, but it's actually a person, and,
Right.
and they're just thinking about improvements to their water system,
Right.
which might leak occasionally because they don't use steel pipes or PVC, they use, well, who knows, terracotta like pipes. Maybe they're made out of clay, which terracotta is pretty good for water running off of it and whatnot. I don't know how
but it's also brittle, and something could come up from the Underdark and dig through and damage it, and then they need help.
And also, what if they had little pet garbage eaters that they used to eat the poop?
Garbage.
Little
Adiugs.
Yeah, what if they had pet adiugs that lived in a pit, so that
little miniature ones,
little ones,
gnome-size adiugs.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool, man. Oh, man, you have been busy, but thinking all these ideas up. That's cool, man.
What else can I do when I'm walking around putting mail in boxes? It's not that mentally challenging. So
yeah, that's cool. Well, this kind of leads us perfectly, this discussion we're having, into our topic today. I mean, if you're ready to move into
we are
the
ready.
first one. The idea is, this is kind of weird to be on a podcast because this is what we're doing, discussing RPGs versus playing them, and then how to even it out. So it's a little bit about, as a gamer, when you discuss RPGs with your friends, like me and Joe do on the podcast and outside, and then play RPGs with your friends. And I guess here's an obvious, I think it's obvious, but I'll say it. Ignoring the podcast time, because we're also doing we're trying to do like a little show. It's kind of fun. Mm-hmm. What do we do more? Discuss
talk or play? Talk.
Yeah, I think we talk for sure. And I used to hate that. I used to really hate that. But I think the older I get, I think I get as much enjoyment talking about gaming as I do playing it. I think I get a 50-50 split on that. So
the talking makes you excited to play.
It does. Do you think more gamers are like us, Joe? Do you think we get a lot of, or do you think that, because I hear people that sound like they're playing all the time. So I feel like maybe we're just an odd bunch.
Well, no, I hear all the time, folks who aren't getting as much gaming as they would like.
Yeah.
But there are an awful lot of people out there that are quite satisfied with online play, where we are not.
No.
So we kind of balk at it and would
grudgingly play.
There's probably plenty of times where we could have played if we had been motivated to set up something in Zoom or whatever, instead of complaining that there's no actual gaming going on.
Yeah, but I hear some people, and then there's some gamers that do play a lot though. Like I hear even Glenn, I think he has a Monday and a Wednesday night game weekly.
Yeah.
I haven't played weekly.
Long time.
Well, it's been a couple of years. I did have a mostly weekly game of 5e when I did that Greyhawk game from 1 to 10 with the wife and Philip and Amy and Trent. But that was cool. And there were small 2 to 4 hour windows of play, but it was every week, like clockwork, for a long time. I wonder though, I guess if you're playing more, you must be talking less. Maybe not though. I don't know.
Well,
I guess you're
it depends. Yeah. I mean, it depends. It's kind of ties into the modern lifestyle that's real busy, and I'm not young anymore, and I'm really tired when I get home from work. If I had a less physical job, it would be a lot easier for me to have energy to play more, probably. But,
it's true, because you get kind of, I think part of it would be, and that's where folks would say, well, you have the internet, just flip on your computer, you can play, and you ain't got to get out of your underwear, and you can go play on the computer, and how sweet is that? But I think just the medium, it just turns me off. I'm just not, the medium doesn't work for me, I guess.
Yes, it's so much, especially if you have the choice. If you have the choice of playing face-to-face or on computer, I would rather play face-to-face. And there will be a lot of times where if you have the option, but it's not going to happen, you may still just not play because you just don't really want to play on. You'd rather be right with your friends at a table instead of in front of a computer, especially when most of the time, if you can't get around a table, you're probably not getting them all online either. So you could probably still find a game, because it's easy to find an online game.
So think about this. So just our friends we have. So if I can get 5 of us together on a day, would you say get together 3 or 4 hours. What percentage would you think you would rather those 3 or 4 hours be spent gaming or 3 or 4 hours be spent shooting the bull and eating food? So I'm trying to say that when we can get together face to face, what percentage of time would you ideally like to carve out for actual gaming?
Oh, okay.
Or are you getting it? Are you getting that ideal percentage now? I know I'm not.
No. Well, especially not now. No one
No.
wants to hang out.
Right.
And I think more of us would want to hang out if there wasn't the whole social stigma around with the Rona.
Right.
So, and the real fear that some people have.
Yep.
I'm around people all day, every day. I've been that throughout the whole thing, and I haven't even gotten a sniffle. So that's just me. That's my experience. Not everybody has that, but I have. I haven't had a flu shot I can't remember the last time.
One in my life. I've had one flu shot my whole life.
And so, and I rarely get sick.
Yep.
And so,
but
it holds very little fear for me. So getting together with people face to face holds little. I'd rather do that than be online.
Absolutely. So here's my point. No, I guess I'm not asking my question right. So I'm saying that, assuming everything's normal, we can get together. And let's say we can get together and hang out for 3 or 4 hours, one time a week, every week. How often would you want that to be gaming? Or would you rather it be just hang out and shoot the bull time?
Well, if I could only, that's a good question, because my first knee jerk was let's play every time.
Okay.
But if you're saying that's the only time we can all get together, that's still fine, because we could probably all get together piecemeal here and there other times throughout the week. So,
and not to mention, we usually have a gab session before and after, so we do get to visit. So yeah,
it's not like when we walk in the house, we immediately sit down at the table and start rolling dice.
No.
And then when we're done with the game, we get up and poof, we're out.
It's not uncommon for us to stay 2 hours past game time.
Right.
And now on the computer, I do have a preference. I would rather gab. I honestly, if I get together with 4 or 5 of you guys on the computer, I find it much more relaxing to just sit and talk. Trying to DM, even on Zoom like this, I just find it. And yes, it's not really any harder if you use Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds. I get it. It's a different type of preparation. It might be a little more, but probably not. I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy online gaming that much. Just don't.
I'm with you.
Yeah. So related to this idea then, why don't we play more? I don't mean just me and you. A lot of our friends complain about not having a game. In fact, right now, I know of one group that's playing supposedly every Wednesday. This is the night that we're podcasting, actually.
Oh, okay.
So of our group of 20-ish friends that play, there's 4 or 5 that are playing every Wednesday.
Right. Okay.
20-ish friends that play D&D or role-playing games. So my question is, and you can say work and your grown-up stuff, I get all that. But really, if you count work and you count sleeping and eating, I mean, whatever, you still have every day 4 or 5 good hours to do something. Right? Every day. And I know you can't do this every day. I'm just saying we do. And you multiply times 7, that's 35 hours a week. Probably everybody has to do something.
Right. It's less any one person, I think. It's probably coordinating.
Mm-hmm. Because we're not all we all have different schedules. I think that's a big one.
Slightly different, just different enough. Like me,
mm-hmm.
Especially now that starting tomorrow, I'm back on the overtime list.
Oh, okay.
Which means I can work right now probably up to 6 in the evening. And or maybe past on Mondays, because Mondays are pretty heavy. So, and then I work on kind of a rotating schedule. So I always have Sunday off, but I like having Sunday for me and the wife.
Sure.
Even if all we do is chill out at the house.
Yeah. That's okay.
I primarily want it to be just us two.
Yeah.
And then on my second supposed to be weekend day that's rotated throughout the week.
Mm-hmm.
Most people their two off days are Saturday and Sunday,
Right.
unless you're on shift work. We have a few of our friends that are on shift work.
And then we get weird schedules that are off Wednesday and Thursday, and those that are off Monday and Tuesday, and those that are off Sunday and Monday. Yeah.
And they may not be on date, and they may not work days. They may work mids or nights. So all that plays into not being able to marry up your schedules very well.
Yeah. I actually think that's one of the reasons, like in college, people talk about, well, I played a lot in college or I played in high school. I don't think it was just having free time. I think it was the fact that your free time coincided with your friends.
Right.
I think that was as important as having it. Granted, in high school, we had no responsibilities, but in college, I had homework to do. I had to study, but pretty much we all went to class in the morning. Everybody was almost always done by 4 at the latest. Every once in a while, I'd have an evening class, but that was later on. But freshman, sophomore year, it was like, we're all done by 4. And so, and you meet every other day. So you could do some gaming if you wanted to. And I did more gaming that way. I think just, and so I guess maybe they default because we're adults and we got different lives. So maybe that's it's just, I think it's more differences than it is just pure schedule.
Right.
So if you had to, so you would rather game every time you get together with your friends and then leave room for visiting outside the game itself.
Or know that you can.
Mm-hmm. Know that you can.
Because when we do get together at the game, we do have that visiting time. So it's not just gaming.
Have you ever met a gamer that doesn't like to talk about gaming? That would rather just play, and then when they're not playing, I mean, my wife's like that. When she games, she doesn't care to talk about it. I don't know if Jenny's like that too, is she?
No, she'll talk about it. I mean, she usually doesn't bring it up, but she does.
Right.
She's fine with talking about it if I want to.
Right. The topic is okay for discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife doesn't get mad at me. She's just like, she's not interested.
Right.
I think most gamers like to talk about it. The ones I've known.
I think
they like discussing.
Right. I'm not sure. There was one mutual gaming friend whose name escapes because he hasn't been around for a while. He would always, when he gamed, he would always be in the background, not really participating a whole lot. So I'm not sure how much gaming talk he's into.
Yeah.
I would imagine not a whole lot.
Well, you have some people that are there just to be the group thing. And so they're just happy to hang out, but then they probably may not say much during discussion, but they probably just want to hang out with everybody.
Right.
So, because when we get together, most of the time, I mean, all our friends we're very active with, all of them, I think almost all of them are gamers of some sort.
Right. And I imagine that, and it seems like to me, we all have an amount of game talk outside of the game that we engage in and in different levels. Me and you we're talking real meta right now. There's not too many of our friends, I think, that will really find this terribly interesting.
Maybe boring topic, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? We might get one listener to this.
I think it's fascinating that when you talk about discussing RPG, well, you
it's
have
very
podcasts.
Meta.
It is. Yeah, it is very meta. Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know. I don't have much more to say. It was pretty short. I do have a secondary topic for us, though. Are you ready to move on to that?
Yeah.
Okay. The second topic, and I get this. You get this statement a lot. And this can be other gamers that play. I've heard my compatriot Joe say this. And depending on my mood, it really bugs me. Other times I agree with him. It's just a game. It's not a big deal. Get over it. So talk about playing D&D. Oh, we can't play this week. And that's just a game. No big deal. Or your character died. It's no big deal. It's just a game. Is it just a game?
Well, on some level, yeah, it's a game.
Agreed.
It's a hobby.
Yep.
Well, some people will take some board games very seriously too.
Some people are hobbyists with board games.
Right.
They totally love the board games. Yep.
Right. So when I say it's just a game, it's when people start getting worked up about things. And
emotions get tense and yeah.
Right. Like when character death, I can understand. So 3rd edition, especially.
Yeah.
And I would imagine Rollmaster and a few other games where that I haven't really played or played much, where creating your character can be very involved and take some significant amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a grimdark kind of vibe in your game and it takes you 3 hours to make your character, I would say that's not a good match.
I'd say it's a bad match. Yeah.
It's a very bad match. And you can understand why people would get a little miffed if their character dies in the first encounter, or maybe they die on the way to the first encounter. You know, they might trip on something and get, you know, I was going to say ptomaine poisoning, but that's
Right.
not it. What you get when you hit something rusty.
Yeah.
Whatever.
What is that called?
Whatever that is, I can't remember now. I'm so old, I can't even think.
Well, you know, I had put that link on there in the show notes. I really was concerned about this definition. Somebody named Scott 2018 paragraph 1, it says hobbies are often thought of as activities for people who lead quiet, relaxed lives. However, people with full, busy, even stressful lives may need hobbies more than the average person and benefit greatly from having hobbies in their lives. Hobbies bring many benefits that usually make them more than worth their time. And my point in saying this is, I think for us and for many gamers, D&D or role-playing games are hobbies. They're not just games. It's not just a let's show up and play cards one night. Now,
Right.
it sounds like some people do play it as like just a game. I'll show up tonight, we'll run a game, it's good. And then I won't think about it for a month and a half. Then I'll play another game of some
Right.
sort. Does it
Mhm.
matter if it's the same character? Nope. Does it got to make any sense while you're there? Nope. It's just a game, roll dice, kill things, take their stuff, or whatever you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So when I'm in that, it's just a game.
Mm-hmm.
It's when people are making a big deal of stuff like I was already saying. But I spend a lot of time thinking about it, and I spend
Right.
a lot of time doodling my plans for a game system, blah blah blah.
A tavern,
And-
a new style campaign.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yep.
And it's a hobby for me.
And I think it's funny when some people will say, well, how can you get so involved in just a game?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I don't say I bristle, but I kind of like, dude, you don't understand.
Right.
It's
And
kind
they
of like
don't.
you. No, it's like when you go out and you crochet and you're into crocheting, you spend hundreds of dollars, you do all this stuff, you take these classes or yoga or whatever, you have your hobbies that you're into, right? Or I collect stamps or whatever, or collect comic books, which I've done. You know, they're kind of I think role playing is also, and those hobbies too become lifestyle hobbies. They help, I don't want to say give my life meaning, but they help me enjoy the free time that I have.
Right.
You know, and I want to do something that I find enjoyable when I have free time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a relief. And so I sometimes get a little put off with that when they say, well, I can't imagine sitting down and spending that many hours doing that. And I'm like, well, I can't imagine going bowling for 3 hours every Friday.
Right.
Drive me up a wall. I don't care for bowling at all.
Right.
You know? So yeah, I think that's the only time I think I would get a little bit put out with that. But I think it is a game, and you got to remember you're playing with your friends. I'm going to borrow from Joe. You're all pals, and when someone gets upset, you know, just level head, calm down, and you know, especially for me. I mean, you know, I'm considered, you know, kind of a deadly GM. I'm not afraid to kill player characters, but I don't like people to get upset at me. I mean, I'm you know, and I hate to do it, but I'm like, it's, you know, the hammer falls sometimes when you least expect it. It's just the way it is. You know, bad rolls can cost you. It's part of the game, right?
Right.
And
That's the thing.
and-
It's a game,
Mm-hmm.
and well, barring third edition, perhaps it's not that hard to make a new character. So
Third edition is not hard if you.
No, it's time consuming.
It can be, depending
Unless
on
unless you're making up familiar things that you can say, yeah, I need this, blah 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 blah, and blah. And at
Right.
first level, if you're making a
Mhm.
first level character, it's not that much.
I would say in a game like third edition, it would be helpful to have another backup character ready, or for the GM to have some pre-gens for you to finish the night out if you get smoked, and then let you make a new one for the next time. But it can be tough. I don't know if that's probably one of the reasons I wouldn't do a Grimdark third edition game, because it'd be too much frustration when the character's built, first attack dead.
Right.
That'd be pretty-
I
that'd be
think
pretty tough.
I think though, depending on how much time you want to take with third edition,
Mhm.
you don't necessarily have to have a bunch of characters made, but you can have some outlines of these are the things I need to make this kind of character if I want to, instead of worrying about optimizing every last thing about your character. You have, I want to play a wizard, I want to play human wizard of this particular school, and you know the little building blocks you need.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going to go pouring over the how many
47,000 splat books.
how yeah, you don't
That's
need to do that, and that's what really takes time. If you're going to niggle over every little thing and try to find the not even optimum, this goes beyond that with that amount of material. You're searching and searching for
the perfect build.
And I'm going to say that's not optimum necessarily because you're spending so much dang time on it.
I would agree. And I think sometimes these statements, like it's just a game, it matters whether it's coming from a fellow gamer or a non-gamer.
Right.
You know, a non-gamer, you're like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. And, you know, that's fine that you think that, and you wouldn't spend that time on this. I get it. There's things you do I wouldn't spend the time on.
Right.
So don't poop on it just because you wouldn't do it. Right.
Right. And that is, if it comes from outside of the hobby, just ignore it.
Yeah, it means a little
because when you say they don't know, they don't.
They don't.
How
They really don't know. And they're not interested. They don't want to know. They just look and go, oh, you got those figures. You got this kind of weird board game. I don't understand. Why do you worry about it so much? Why are you watching videos? Why are you prepping all this for a cabin con that's a month away and you're already doing stuff and making characters? Because I want it to go well.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah.
Well, a lot of people wonder why anyone would, I mean, going to a con like a regular con is one thing. What we do is a little different.
Oh yeah, it's nothing like a Gen Con or Origins or Texas. It's not that kind of convention. No. It's really just a bunch of buddies getting together for 4 days and playing games and eating food.
Right. So instead of fishing or hunting, we roll dice. So and we actually do the thing we say we're going to do when we go off on our convention.
We really do. Yeah, we actually play it. I think that makes us, that is definitely fits the lifestyle hobby. It's part of our, I think sometimes that's why when, you know, like I know my wife will go, you guys talk about the same stuff over and over. And we kind of do. And we'll listen to all these podcasts. A lot of times I hear a lot of the same stuff, but the thing is, every little new nugget, everything that makes you go, or man, I had forgotten about that. I think we love the hobby so much. We're always everybody's seeking the perfect game, right? Almost every gamer that's into it is looking for this perfect game, perfect version of D&D, you know, or whatever you're playing. And so, which no one's going to get, you're never going to find it. There is no perfect nirvana, but I think we're always seeking that because we do love it so much. And it's hard to, I think a lot of people don't realize people that play this their whole lives like us. I mean, I think this is kind of a side, but sorry, I'll sidetrack. We can do it. I think I was very impacted by my first time playing the game. I don't know I can't always put my finger on what it was that made me become a D&D player. I mean, I did it and I thought it was cool, but something spoke to me in this, you know, and it was really cool. And it wasn't until I became a dungeon master that I actually felt that connected to it, because I wasn't connected as a player. And I thought it was cool, but I was like, I want something more. I thought it was, I kind of was jealous of my cousin Rodney behind the screen. I was like, I want to be that guy, you know? So, yeah. All right, cool.
Right. And listening to a lot of people talk about the various aspects of the game is what got me to thinking about the campaign that we were talking about earlier and the inn as well. I was watching Shadiversity, which is a YouTube channel, and he talks about weapons and various period things and compares it to popular media like movies and I think the role playing at times. Yeah. And he was talking about inns and taverns. So it got to me thinking about this location that I've thought of. Right. And then our discussion in our podcast about races.
Yep.
About how in newer games, all the races, or the newer versions of D&D, all the races have there's no limitations to class or level or whatever. They're all races can do all things the same.
And that gnome race is probably in your mind not a race that any player would ever want to play, because in your mind they're not really adventurer type people. Is that true?
Well, they may not, because in my conception, I'm more leaning to old school with level limits, except for perhaps
a certain class
designed for that race, where they could be unlimited in, but otherwise, yeah, limited. So gnomes and halflings are tiny. There's no amount of verbal shenanigans that are going to get me to think that a halfling with what amounts to a short sword that they're using two-handed with their tiny muscles are going to be a match for any fighter of human stature wielding a long sword in one hand. It's not going to happen.
No. It's a,
because they're children. They're children sized.
Yeah. Well, they even said in the Lord of the Rings, right? You would not see them. They would not be more than children to your eyes.
Right.
And so it's like, it's really hard to believe them. Even when they were fighting the orcs sometimes in Lord of the Rings, I was kind of like,
they really only were in their own when they were throwing rocks.
Yeah.
Because they didn't miss.
No, yeah, that was one of the things. Yeah, super accurate.
They didn't miss. And they could, that's one thing. But so thinking that you could be a fighter in earlier editions saying, well, an 18 strength halfling it's a different kind of strength than an 18 strength human, but it says 18, so it does the same thing.
Right.
Anyway,
and it's hard.
It's rehash, but
yeah. Well, what do you think?
In that vein,
yes.
The gnome, in my conception of gnome, because there really isn't one. Take your pick. They're fairies.
Right.
So if you're going to have a gnome, most of them are depicted like a dwarf that's a bit shorter and thinner. So smaller stature, kind of halfling stature.
Kind of.
But I consider them to be more of a tinker.
Yeah, I prefer that. I prefer that interpretation
like that
as well.
Yeah.
In D&D, when they've used the gnomes, most of the time I thought the gnomes were just, they were like halfway between a halfling and a dwarf, but they weren't really either one of them, and they didn't really strike me as a very interesting class, even though, in 5e for sure, and some other classes, in some of the games version of D&D, a gnome's a very good character, especially a wizard. They have some really good abilities, but they just seem like a weird class to even consider. But you and I are both kind of fuddy-duddy and stuck in the old
right
the old ways, I guess.
Well, they make sense.
Well, yeah, true. Have you ever, I'm still sticking with this idea, is it just a game? Have you ever been confronted by someone that was not a gamer that, see, people got to understand, Joe's not easily torqued off, but have they ever asked you something like that? Like, why are you playing that silly game? And you thought, and it really bothered you, or you thought, you don't understand this. Have you ever faced that at all?
When I was in the Army, I was in Germany, and the folks that I processed with to the duty station there, once I got settled into a room, I wanted to start gaming if I could find some folks.
Sure.
And I had a book out in this one, I was in a medical unit, so there were a lot of girls running around and, or women,
right.
Female soldiers. And we processed with, half and half, something like that. And a couple of them, there was about 4 or 5 of us that we all hung out. We went around Germany in the train system.
Yeah.
Few guys, few girls. We just explored.
Sure.
And I don't remember what brought up gaming at all. I probably did, but I can't remember.
Right.
And they're like, well, what's that?
Yeah.
And one of them was kind of like, well, I don't get it. And the other one, when we were playing, she didn't play, she was watching.
Yeah.
She said, and then I DM'd a bit, and then this other guy DM'd a bit, and she said, I like his stories better than yours. Referring to the ones she liked better were mine, to the other guy.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. She was probably just goofing around. Who knows?
Right. Well, I mean,
But-
it could be. Well, we had don't forget, well, I don't think you were around then. You might have been in the military. I know JD's wife, Heather, she would watch us play a lot, and we'd
Mhm.
offer her to play. She goes, no, I just rather watch. And she said she really enjoyed it.
Right.
She'd
So
sit and watch.
she didn't understand it, but then when she watched, she was like, "Oh, okay."
Right.
Not that she would play, but she understood it's a game.
Right.
Because we play cards a lot too,
Sure.
and it's a game.
Yeah.
So it's another
Yeah.
game.
And to a lot of people, that's all it is. And
Yeah.
I've met a few gamers where D&D is just one of many games that they play.
Mhm.
And by that, I mean, they'll play a role-playing game, they play board games, they play card games. And to them, if it's half a dozen to one, six of the other, for me, it's not. I mean, I know you like also you'll play cards, you'll play board games, and I will too. But if I have my choice every time, if we have three choices, Bard or card, board, or D&D game or role-playing game, I'm doing role-playing game every single time.
Oh, sure.
I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I literally prefer that to any other game. Now, if you got 20 minutes, I guess it's got to be a card game. Maybe not though. I mean, I've GM for a short bit before, but that wouldn't be that great. So
Especially if you didn't already have a character.
yeah, true. It could be a kind of pain in the butt. Made the character our time's up. All right. I think we beat that pretty good. How about for a little cabin con moment? And I put some questions here I realized I've asked before. And really what I wanted to do was, instead of asking those questions, I want to connect to what we talked about. And cabin con, we play and we gab. What do you think the percentages are there?
We probably play more.
I think we play more. I think we do too.
I think so. I think so.
Since we've gotten the kind of the 3 slots in a day sort of system, with the 4th slot being late if you want to play. Not many of us play that though, do we? You hear many games going on at midnight?
No, it happens.
Mhm.
When we have the larger and I think a little on average younger crowd,
Mhm.
I think there's more later games.
Yeah.
But with all of us old fogies, it gets much past 9, we're ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
I need my
Right.
pillow.
We're ready to slow it down, baby. Yeah, that's true. So this year we're
Keep
going
it
to have
down. It's after 9.
We're going to have a couple young bucks. We're going to have one of the very youngest of 18, which is the youngest we allow. We have a person I think is 21, 22. And then I think everybody is going to be late 30s or older. I think that's how it's going to work from there on out. So 20, 21 guys, something like that. So it should be a good event. We get a lot of yammering and a lot of playing and a lot of eating. It'll be a good time. We're getting close. I can't wait.
Close.
Yeah.
Getting very close.
All right. So did you notice the game I picked for Beat This Game?
Yeah, I don't know why you picked it.
I did because to be fair, Joe and I know little to nothing about this game, and neither one of us are fans of it. And he's like, well, how could you do that, Randy? How could you be a non-fan of a game that you really know little about or nothing? We're going to talk about it. I want to tell you up front, though, my size ranking on this game. It's medium. It is not any lower than medium, which says, okay, I would play it for a while, and I would. And this is 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons. So I can tell you that's what my rating is. So I'll go ahead and start. So things I like about it. I have played this game 1, 2, 3 times, I think, in my life. And every time I played, I had a pretty good time. But to be fair, I have a good time no matter what I play because I'm rarely a player. I have never GM'd it. And I do appreciate it. Pros of this game are, I thought a lot of their ideas were good when the game was being announced, when it was announced and it was coming out and they were giving us little snippets. Remember, we talked about the ideas sounded good, ways to heal other than magic. They had something called healing surges, which in 13th Age became recoveries. So I kind of appreciate that. 13th Age is kind of, if 4th edition had been 13th Age, I would have been 100% in.
Probably.
So, yeah. I like the fact that, what did I like about that game? I did like some of the idea of the setting they were trying to push, that we're going to try to make the world a little more points of light sort of setting where just, beacons of civilization and everything else was wilderness and dangerous. I like that idea, but that's pretty hard to do in the Forgotten Realms.
Did they do that?
Well, they had that
I know
thing
they
called,
talked about it.
they had the spell plague and these events that supposedly nerf certain characters, but I can't really say that I know. I know that I thought when I played, I thought it was kind of fun, but I played like at Gen Con a couple of times and people I was playing with, they, kind of helped me walk through the whole idea. They had, characters had different powers and stuff. And I thought it was kind of weird, but there was some neat sounding powers. I mean, I thought like Tide of Iron sounded cool for a fire, where you know basically you're swinging your sword, but they call it Tide of Iron. You got to do
Yeah.
something special. But I mean, I do appreciate it for it developing, it giving the 13th Age authors some fodder to work with. I'm trying to think what else was pretty good. Not a whole lot, because reading the book was definitely a bad thing for me. Was there
Like
anything
I've said a
important?
few times, I
Uh-huh.
tried reading Player's Handbook. It put me to sleep. I think it was very poor presentation.
Yeah.
It may not have been, if it was a different presentation, maybe if they had led with what was that, essentials or whatever they had released a different
Yeah, it was kind of
fourth
a
edition essentials. Is that what it was
yeah,
called?
I think it was a revamp of the rules, a rewrite to make it sound a little more palatable. I
Right.
don't
If
want
they had led with something like that, I didn't get those books, so I don't know what the layout
to.
was
Me
like.
neither.
The
The rumor wasn't.
layout was boring.
Yeah.
In the first fourth edition books, it was
Mhm.
just block after block of powers. I mean, the whole thing was powers.
Yeah.
It was boring.
I did appreciate the fact that it was simple. I actually thought when I was reading it, I was like, this would be a very easy game to introduce new young players to. They would understand it with the whole powers and okay, I use this power and I can't use it again until the next day, or I use this power, can't use it till the next battle. But it was really, as far as cons, there's so many. I think the biggest con, in my opinion, was I think they kind of pooped on all the previous editions and they really crapped on all the people that had played the game before. They just gave us, you're getting what we like, and you're going to take this and you're going to like it because it's
Yeah.
better. It's
Yeah, and
better.
I didn't like the initial their initial these are the things we would like to do with fourth edition, all sounded good. But then when they started introducing all these video game concepts,
Mm-hmm.
like aggro and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
I really, that turned me off to on a big level. And then
And
when you looked at I remember this being a thing, and I might not have been, it just might have been perception. So the fighter was good at taking damage, soaking damage and drawing aggro, whatever. But the ranger and the rogue did more damage,
oh,
if I remember correctly.
I think you're right, because they were called strikers. They could hit for a striker, and some people got really upset about classifying defender, striker, crowd control using the WoW terms. And
Right.
it kind of bugged me, but honestly, it's like they did that anyway. They just did. I'm sure when they built third edition, they're like, this sort of wizard will be able to control lots of people. This sort of fighter will be able to do lots of damage. So they might have called him a striker. I think some folks made mountains out of molehill on that. I also had a problem with the play. You mentioned, before that everybody did their D6 damage as you went around the table on first level. It was kind of
When you
felt a
heard
little
play, you heard when you there was a video out about a
Mhm.
gameplay video out, and they were like, okay, your turn. Okay, roll. They all did almost the same number of points of damage, and it just cycled around the table.
Yeah. I just don't think I mean, third edition was still pretty strong, and I don't think people was ready to make the move, and that opened the door for Pathfinder. I would just say, uh, as far as anything that I really, really, truly liked, I liked that it was easy for new players to pick up. I thought it led to 13th Age, which I liked, and I liked their healing surges. Though I like the recovery mechanic better. It's not necessarily my favorite way to do healing, but I liked it some. I just didn't think they brought much to the game for my purposes, but some people who played it really loved it.
Right.
Did you ever play it?
Nope.
Oh, okay. You never played one session. Okay.
Nope.
So I guess you can't really say much about whether you liked it.
Not
but reading
really.
reading it was a chore. That was definitely a drawback. It was I never got through it. I even have a copy of the book. I couldn't read it. So my ranking for this is medium. It's okay. I would play it. I would never run it, but I wouldn't run it as a campaign. I'm going to do it one time at CabinCon just to say I've run every edition of D&D. But how about you? Where would you put it at?
Oh, if someone had some pre-gens, I'd play it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't run it, and I wouldn't look for a fourth edition game. But if we were at Gen Con, or Cabin Con, and I wanted to play, and that was the game being played, I'd play it. And I'd probably have fun with our crowd. No problems.
Right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
try really hard not to denigrate the game while playing it.
That
It's
would be a good.
a downer. It's a downer for everybody.
It really is. I think it's really hard, even with people that I think there was definitely a lot of people that liked it, people that still like it. But I think as far as all the additions to the game, it's got to be the one that most people. I mean, just my gut feeling it from, and it's all anecdotal, but what I hear on the internet, it's probably the least. It's the
Least
whipping
liked.
boy, the whipping boy of D&D. Yeah.
Well, it is the game that made, okay, in a way, Paizo, the behemoth that it became.
Right.
If it wasn't for the move to fourth edition from third, instead of perhaps revising third or sticking with a new edition, a new addition to D&D that was more like third.
Mm-hmm.
If they had gone that route, Paizo would never have been as big as what it is, because
True.
a lot of people liked third edition, and Paizo kept that light going for a long time. And now second edition isn't quite in the same vein.
No, I think it's got some it's got some fans for sure, but it's not quite. Anyway, yeah. So fourth edition just wasn't our bag, but I wanted to put it in there just because it's one of the D&D versions. So
right, yeah, and it's I can't really give it a rank except for my I tried. I like to read.
Yeah,
I can do it. I can read a couple words.
Right.
I have a decent vocabulary, but I think it was just the organization and presentation layout and all that stuff.
Yep.
Was very boring.
And I'll be honest with you, I was pretty pumped when they said it was coming out. I thought it was going to be good. I thought, oh well, yeah, I'm kind of tired of 3.5. I was kind of tired of 3.5. I hate to see my old books go, but I was like, if it's all they're saying, I'm willing to give it a try. And it wasn't, not for me. So
I remember my initial, I was excited about fourth edition coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And then somewhere along their development cycle, once they started releasing stuff, and then when they started making allusions to video games, and at the same time saying that they weren't, that really bugged me.
Yeah.
And I had just probably stopped playing EverQuest forever.
Right.
Because of the grind.
Right.
And I didn't want, and I don't know if fourth edition was grindy.
No idea.
But I didn't want to have an EverQuest experience at the table.
Yeah, I've had some people say it was even slower than 3.5 at high levels. Then I've heard some of it was about the same. I know they had a lot of mechanics like pushing and pulling, and you really couldn't play. And they measured distances in squares, which is fine. But the point is, it becomes absolutely need minis. You need a battle board, and you're pushing characters around. And I guess if you really enjoy, and I do like minis, so that didn't totally turn me off. But it just sounds weird to be talking about pushing and pulling sometimes.
Well, I didn't like the square thing.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
Yeah. Well, personally, I like hexes better on a map than squares.
But I like when they give you the feet too.
Right. Tell me in feet, please.
Yeah.
Because that makes more sense than squares.
Yeah. True.
I don't know. Square. A square represents a number of an amount of actual distance, just like in the old days when you had turns.
Yep.
And there were other.
When first second edition, you'd have you can move 12 inches, and inside a dungeon it was feet,
and then outside was yards.
Was yards. I thought that was totally weird.
Right. Somehow underground your ranges got shrunk.
Yeah, I guess they're considering you move slower because you're nervous or something, but that was just weird.
Well,
all right.
You move slower, perhaps, because you're being more cautious. But the idea that underground, maybe the idea is magic's muted. I think it was just, I just thought it was stupid.
Yeah, I just didn't.
I thought it was arbitrary.
Well, that made it more like a board game, or a video game. But I mean, and you can say it's not. That's fine. Every game's got its own rules. But yeah, it really wasn't for me.
Right.
All right. Well, we kind of a short podcast tonight, but I think we're about right up against it, aren't we?
Let's see. Let's see
Time.
what that record time is.
We're at the plug time.
We're
It's all right. While Joe's looking.
we're barely over an hour.
Sweet.
We're a shorty today.
This will be a shorty today. Yeah. If you'd like to support our show, please check out our website at biggestgeekuspodcast.com/support. Any contribution is much appreciated, and we thank you for that. Please share the podcast with your friend. It's available most places you can get your podcast. If you have an app that we don't seem to support, it doesn't support us, let us know, and we will get our show on there. Our email is questions@biggestgeekuspodcast.com. Any questions you might have about is it just a game or discussing versus playing RPGs or even 4E? That'd be kind of fun to get into a little 4E discussion. Please give us a holler. We'd like to encourage you to check out a few of the podcasts we like. Red Dice Diaries with John Allen Large and his wife Hannah. Radio Grognar with Glenn Hellstrom. Tale of the Manicore. It's kind of a dramatized quasi-play. Tavern Chat with Eric Tinkar, Nerds Variety RPG Cast Jason, and I'll just go ahead and throw it in there. How about Shadow of the GM with that guy Barry from across the pond?
Yeah.
That's an excellent podcast. So Shadow of the GM would definitely be one to check out. Okay. Well, anyway,
that means I need to do extra work and put a link in the show notes.
yeah, you're gonna have to because
You
I didn't
jerk.
put that in. I am a jerk. So more work for Joe, which is always a good day for Randy. Anyway, this is Randy,
And this is Joe.
and remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us.